You gotta be good at doing things you're not good at. A lot of people don't like doing stuff that they're not good at. They find whatever reason to say, I don't want to do it. Like for me, it's basketball. I don't want to play basketball because I'm not good at it. I'm good at getting rebounds. I can run up and down the court, defend a little bit, but shooting, not my bag. Random, I'm not good at other things, but that's okay. The reason why I say you got to get good at doing things you're not good at is because eventually you can develop a skill. Know your limits. Sometimes you're not going to be able to do everything and anything under the sun, and that's okay. I've accepted that I have limitations and I'm comfortable living within my limits. Sometimes I push it a little bit, but if it starts to pull me away from my inner peace, I let it go. Earlier this week, one of my high school classmates posted that it was her 5 year college graduation reunion. And then it dawned on me that I graduated from college 4 years ago with my BS in computer engineering. Time has flown by. I have been through a lot of changes, obviously, in the last 5 years. Um, for one, I'm bald now. That was probably one of the biggest adjustments I've ever had to make in my last 5 years. It took me a while to get confident being bald headed because I got a big head, but it's working on me. I actually ran into one of my old classmates and she told me that I look better bald. And I didn't know how to take that because I used to rock the Wiz Khalifa before Wiz Khalifa did the bleach patch thing. And I thought I was pretty fly at the time, but clearly it wasn't working for me. I started thinking about what was my life like 5 years ago, and it's so different now. For one, 5 years ago, I was not happy. I was masking being sad, and I was covering that up, doing a lot of questionable stuff, a lot of frivolous activity that my best friend had to witness, being my roommate throughout undergrad. I apologize again for all those shenanigans, but bro, we had a lot of fun. Um, I think about the bad more than I do the good when I reflect on the past 5 years because I've had to endure so much solely because of myself. I internalize a lot of things and I think about it so much. And a lot of my friends and family tell me, hey, you don't need to be in your head about so many things. You just need to let them happen. But I just don't believe that. It's so hard for me to do that because I'm very solution oriented. So I want to get to the bottom of everything. But I just had to learn that you're not going to always get an answer for some questions that you have. With it being February, this would be the spring semester in which I would be graduating. And at the time, I'm definitely frustrated about a lot of things in life. One, senior design is terrible. I definitely remember the stress that I went through working on senior design because of the fact that I was a team lead for that and my team members had different motivations for finishing the project. For the most part, we wanted to get it done, but it was just like, hey, I'm trying to get up out of here. So a lot of our activities weren't aligned. And I definitely recall I was skipping class for the first time to go hook up with the girl I was dating at the time, which was really, really irresponsible, but I just was running on fumes. I was going through a lot emotionally. I was dealing with a heartbreak, obviously, because hey, I'm always in some form of relationship. But yeah, I was really messed up about that, and I hurt somebody emotionally because I was not healed at the time. I was dating two or three girls at the same time, and I was hooking up with other women, and it definitely affected me because I was trying to mask my hurt by having relations with a lot of women, and that is not healthy. And 5 years later, what I amount that too is having a bunch of awkward moments when I run into some of them because it's just like they knew a shell of me, and that exchange did not warrant anything long lasting. And I feel like I could have had some really positive friendships out of those people. Like, it's no beef or anything like that. I'd imagine if I ran into them, and some of them I have run into, we'd be on speaking terms. But it's awkward for me because I know what type of person I was back then, and those women didn't deserve what they got from me or lack thereof. But in the moment, I was justifying that behavior with the fact that, well, I was being honest and they knew what I was about and where I was at. The reality was, I wasn't healed and I didn't need to do a lot of that. A lot of the experiences that I had romantically 5 years ago were short term, very lust driven, and had a lot of lingering effects. And I could have just did better. I don't I don't blame my lack thereof control. I blame my lack thereof understanding. And heartbreak did play a big factor in that year. And I'm man enough to admit that now because I've healed from it fully. And if you know where I was at in my life 5 years ago, you putting the two and two together. But I've forgiven myself and that person for all that I've been through in spite of them. And my hope is that I can move forward from it and they can too. Because I still haven't spoken to that person. And hopefully they're in a good place now. I'm in a better place now. And I wish nothing but peace, love, and happiness to that person and to those people that I had those experiences with as well. Because it kind of lingered on post that. Relationships is just, I really struggle in that department. But hopefully, now that I love myself a little bit more, I can do better. So I'm going to just leave that there. For one, I wanted to graduate. I was definitely trying to focus on finishing strong because I had never really just failed per se academically, but I felt like this time around I could screw myself up if my priorities weren't together. So academically, there was a lot for me to adjust to that year with senior design and what was the other class? I think it was like a signals class. It was something that was just stressing me out, and I needed to make sure I passed those two classes to graduate. By the springtime, though, I was just like, hey, it is what it is. I wanted to live my life. Nah, I was drinking a lot that year. It was me really just not taking good care of myself. I think that was probably my worst year with my physique because of the fact that I had so much alcohol in my system and I was eating a lot of desserts because I was getting a hookup at the grill. Don't ask me how because I don't want to indict anyone. But shout out to people that worked at the grill that used to hook it up. That definitely carried me through. I know why I was. Yeah, I definitely. I was wilding. So graduate. The senior design class was just very difficult and there was a lot of pressure because with senior design it's a semester fall and semester spring and the class is essentially combined. So you have to pass semester one and semester two to get the credit for the class. If you don't pass in the fall, you have to retake the class next year. And if you fail in the spring, you have to retake the entire course. So it's like you have to get two passing grades consecutively to graduate, which is a lot of pressure. And I was a team lead. it was more pressure on me because the professor would look to me to answer the questions for the group, and the professor already had some friction with me because he expected me to handle academics a certain way. And that just wasn't my MO. My main thing was I need to know enough to pass the class and then I'll be able to move forward with my life. And we just had some cultural differences in terms of how a student in engineering should present and carry himself. And that created some friction. But fortunately enough, we placed third in senior design, so he had to pass us. He was threatening to fail us. Like every semester he tried to fail us, but we kept getting positive results from the corporate people that would come to evaluate us. So by that time, it was just like, hey, my man, if you fail us, then we got to really evaluate. And I would have took him to the board on that, but everything worked itself out. God did. Aside from that, my health was not the best my senior year. I was having terrible breakouts. I remember having to go to the dermatologist, I think that preceding year, because I had really bad inflammation. And this when I started to deal with like the onset baldness. My diet was so trash because of the fact that I was drinking a lot. I wasn't really sleeping. I was doing things that I shouldn't have been doing a lot. And I was not taking care of myself spiritually. I don't think I was going to church consistently at that point in time in my life. When I think about it, I know I wasn't. I was very distant from working on my relationship with God my senior year. And I knew I should have been doing better, but I was too distracted by the world around me. And part of that is I was compartmentalizing grief, heartbreak, stress, and disappointment, and a lot of negative feelings. My senior year was really tough for me because I was still trying to get over the fact that I lost two people that I loved that year. Um, One being my grandmother. I lost her to cancer in 2017. And the person I was dating at the time was very, very, very instrumental in helping me heal through that. And our relationship ended the fall after that. So essentially, emotionally, I was very unstable. And it's all on me. I don't blame anybody else for my shortcomings in life. I take full accountability for the decisions that I make and the positions that I'm in, regardless if there was external influences, just because how I was raised. And I'm probably gonna talk about my father every episode of this pod. So y'all just brace for that. And shout out to my dad. I don't give him as much credit all the time for the effort he put in being a father. He really didn't have a role model for a father. And he did his best. So I gotta give him his props for that. I love you, Pops. I always say I love you, I don't like you all the time. But I start to like you a lot more now. We still get into it every so often, but that's just because we probably are more alike than we care to admit. And I'm comfortable with admitting that now because you ain't that bad. But back to the subject, and even with that, 5 years ago, me and my father's relationship was terrible. And we both would argue that it was the other person's fault for that or the miscommunication. I chalk it up to, I could imagine it being frustrating having a man around when he isn't fully exposed to what the world is from the sense of external things that can happen that you're responsible for. When my dad was graduating college, he already had me. So I was at his graduation and I didn't have that situation. So I could imagine there's like a disconnect there. My pop's graduating and I'm born already there. He actually found out my mom was in labor with me when he was in class his senior year. So he always says how he had his partner had to drive him to the hospital when I was born and everything. So with me not having anything remotely close to that, I could imagine there's a disconnect there in terms of perspective of what the world is, because I don't have kids, obviously, nor am I in like anywhere close remotely to having kids when we look back 5 years ago. And now my father and I, we have a lot better communication. I think that's partly because he can't really tell me nothing per se. I feel like my father has accepted the fact that I'm a GAM, and if you know what that acronym means, then you know what that acronym means. If you don't, put your context together. You got a grown man, a grown. That's a thing now, and it's funny because we have like real conversations about life and perspective, and we don't agree on everything. It just boils down to, all right, my life. I'm gonna live it how I want to live it, and we just move forward with it. We still get back and forth about silly stuff. Like the last time me and my dad got into it was because he was trying to argue me that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles started off as a board game and not a comic book. I went so far as to show him the article where the creators of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles said they started with the comic book, and he said they don't know what they're talking about. It just kind of rolls into the space of my dad's getting to that age where he's stuck in his ways, and I just gotta love him for who he is, because I know one day, if I'm not already stuck in my ways about things, which I probably am, it's only gonna get worse as I get older. I don't like arguing, but I care about expressing myself and being understood. I want to make sure that in my communication, the person that's listening to me can put their passion aside and use their intellect to understand me. Because that's something I work towards. I want to make sure that even in situations where I'm very passionate about the conversation or the subject, I want to make sure that I'm able to effectively communicate. I don't want to be the person that is so fixated on proving a point that I missed the mark. And I see that a lot in my communication patterns with people. And I don't know if it's my demeanor per se. Growing up, I heard that a lot, that I have a very commanding demeanor, and it almost comes off as if I'm trying to force people to think or feel a certain way. And that's so far from it. I definitely am firm in my convictions, and I am stern in my beliefs or my morals. I don't ever want that to interject me presenting myself in a way that's approachable and willing to be receptive. I really go out my way to create a safe space for my friends and family to communicate with me about things, because I want people to feel heard. And that's partially another component of this show. I've been able to use this platform to create conversations with friends and family. And it feels good knowing that y'all care about what I have to say. I found one of my old journals where I would scribble my thoughts and stuff, and it's a diary, okay? I found one of my old diaries, and I was looking at the goals that I set for myself a couple years ago, and I tried to redo my 5 year plans. One of them that stuck out to me was to take more trips, which was difficult because I didn't have the money that I would have liked to have had to take those trips. But I forgot who told me you don't ever need a lot of money to travel. But now, you need a little bit of change to get out and do some fun stuff. And fortunately enough, I'm in a position where I can do that. So I got to take some good trips these past couple summers. I'm proud of myself for keeping on that commitment. I also told myself I was going to try to do something every winter. Last winter, I got to go on a trip. I went on a cruise and had a lot of fun. It was a good time. Even though we didn't get to go to Mexico because the weather was bad, it was still a good time. I like cruises. I enjoy the food on the cruise. I like to be able to gamble, and I enjoy being on the water. It's just peaceful for me. Made a plan to pay off my student loan debt in May of 2026. Unfortunately, the student loan forgiveness stuff is kind of screwed up right now. And I don't really care where you stand on the line of if loans should be forgiven or not. All I'm saying is if somebody was willing to give you $10,000 today, you think you wouldn't take it? But I am no longer eligible for the student loan forgiveness. I'm going to try to fight to get it. Fingers crossed. But I'm very frustrated because we should have been able to get, if it was last year, my loans would have been forgiven, I'd have been good. But due to some changes, I'm not eligible anymore. So I'm a little disappointed about that. One of the things that stood out to me was I said I wanted to be a homeowner by 30. And I'm a homeowner before I'm 30. So that's really cool. I didn't even realize I wrote that down because I hadn't checked that journal in forever. But it's like, wow, I superseded a goal. And I feel good about it. I don't know what I expected my life to be like when I was 30. I could imagine thinking back 5 years ago what I would have liked for it to be. That didn't really work out, and it's okay. Some of the things I did accomplish that wasn't on my 5 year plan that I'm super grateful for. One, the frat. Like, I did not anticipate finally being able to be a member of Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated within my 5 year plan. I really just got blessed with it. And I'm a life member now. I serve on the e-board. I'm a committee chair. I'm very active. And I really do love what I do for the frat. It is a rewarding feeling. I like doing the work more than I do the fun stuff that I thought I would have enjoyed when I got in the frat. It's funny how things happen like that sometimes. Paying off my car was on my list, and I did that years ago. I was thinking so small, and it's just like looking at my journal, the goals that I set for myself 5 years ago were really like, they were big deals to me at the time, but now they really didn't matter that much. 5 years ago, I was driving another hand me down car that I had to pay for. The transmission was bad. The AC was always going out. Shout out to my Uncle Delray for helping me with the AC, for showing me why you show up for family. Because you didn't have to do that the way you did, and I truly appreciate it. And that's why I make sure I'm always there to support you when you need it in any type of way that I can, whether it be with the tech stuff or whatever. But yeah, 5 years ago, I did not have the car that I love now. And not only did I not have it, but I had a car note. I don't have a car note anymore. I own it. And that's a big deal to me because it's not an old car. It was new. Taking better care of myself was on the list. And what I mean by taking better care of myself, I'm speaking from a health point of view. I was not big into going into doctors just because I didn't really communicate that I wasn't feeling well as a kid, because I was trying to show how tough I was. So if I got sick, I'd be like, I'm good. Or if something was bothering me, typically it would be with my ears because I have very sensitive ears. So they would frequently get infections and stuff like that, or get clogged up. Or if like my body wasn't where I needed it to be from a like aches and pains, I wouldn't really go to the doctor about it. It's just always been like that. My parents had told me a funny story where when I was a baby, I got sick with pneumonia and I didn't cry about it. I didn't complain. I didn't groan or scream or nothing. My parents took me to the doctor after the fact because they didn't know what was wrong, but they could just tell something wasn't together for whatever reason. The doctor told me I healed from pneumonia, and they just didn't know. Like, my parents were so shocked because they weren't negligent parents. I just wasn't crying. I wasn't complaining. I just thugged it out at a young age, and they was like, they thought something was wrong with me, and clearly something was, because even to this day, when I'm not feeling well, I'm in pain, I kind of just tough it out. But I told myself I'd do better about going to see doctors and physicians for things as they arrive. I'm getting older now, so I got to be more intentional with my health. So now I see a dermatologist because I get really bad inflammation and dry skin. And my skin is cleared up now. So I have a regimen that I use and some medicine, and it's really been helping me out. I found a black dermatologist in the area, and I am super grateful for the work that they've done with me. So that's progress. Another thing, my teeth. I was scared to go to the dentist because in the freshman year, my biology teacher told me her son suffered a horrific accident from going to a dentist and him not properly cleaning his teeth. So I just told myself I was gonna brush my teeth every day and leave it at that. I didn't even floss because I was afraid I'd tear a nerve up or something in here. However, a couple years ago, I told myself I'm gonna go to the dentist and get my teeth checked out because I would always bite my gums and grind my teeth in my sleep. So I went to the dentist and they fixed my whole mouth. I got everything cleaned. I got all my cavities filled, and they cut some of the fat in the back of my mouth so that I wouldn't be biting my jaws anymore. Or, y'all know what I mean, biting the inside of my gums. You can't bite your jaw. But that was the thing. I never forget that day because they gave me some drugs. I was trying to get I wish I had the footage, but I was yelling at my family. This was the pandemic, so I was living with my parents at the time. I was yelling that I wanted a strawberry milkshake, and I was gonna go to the store if they didn't get it for me. And I was ready to get into it with everybody that day. My mom was trying to calm me down on the couch. I remember she put her hand on my chest and told me to go to sleep. And I was scared like I was a little kid for the first time because I was really about it. I was trying to fight my brothers. I remember I was talking reckless to my pops, and he was about to come upstairs and tighten me up, but my mom saved me. That was a good laugh. But yeah, just like the little stuff like that. I mean, if you could imagine the progress. Because I only went to the dentist one time in my life, and they gave me like some caps, and I was like 7. And I had ate a chicken noodle soup, and I swallowed the cap. So it was just a waste, and I just never went back again. So, yeah, take care of your hygiene, man. Get your teeth checked out. Go to a dentist. Make sure that you floss every night. Brush your teeth twice a day. Take care of your oral health because you don't want your breath to stink. And use a tongue scrubber too. I put on my 5-year plan that I wanted to work on my relationship with God by reading the scripture more. I'm still not doing that. I just don't prioritize reading the Bible like I should. I do frequently watch Bible study, and I get the notification on my phone. For some reason, though, I just do not prioritize reading the Bible like I should. And maybe I find a way to incorporate that into the show where I like hit y'all with a scripture or something or try to tell a story around it. But I'm going to figure that out. And I'm always hint on my relationship with God on this show because that's a big part of my life. I do not want that to be mistaken in this journey that we're going on, where I discover more about myself and share more about myself to the world, because I definitely value my relationship with God. I remember when I used to pay, and I'm saying my dad used to pay $7 for my haircut. He'd give me 10. I get to tip the barber and then play the video game at the barber shop. It was great times. If I go to my barber with $10, he probably gonna laugh at me. But he gonna hook it up though. Shout out to my barber. But man, it's the price of haircuts have went exponentially through the roof. And I'm not mad at it because it's like you got to get your money. But I'm so glad that's one of the pros of being bald because I can cut my own hair now and save me some money. So for the most part, I'm cutting my own hair now because the price of haircuts is ridiculous. I got a good deal on haircuts though. Shout out to my barbers, my Pro Fight, Chris Matthews, GQ Cuts at Fade the North. It's in Acres Homes, Houston, Texas. Pull up on him. He does great work. He can give you a good haircut, beard care. He does the facials, the chair shoulder massages, a whole lot of great stuff going on there. He does hair dye if you need that. All types of good stuff. I obviously don't need all those services because I'm bald, but for the longest, he's been cutting my hair. So shout out to him. He has great prices. I'm not going to tell you how much I pay for my cut because that's personal, but he'll take care of you for a good price. Get into the rotation. He even does like a lot of great deals if you set up some reoccurring service. He a real one. He be home me with ooh. I mean, he be taking it too far with the alcohol though. I don't like that, but it's all good. We came a long way from barbers, man. I remember my first barber used to have that. I can't even say that because that's not appropriate. It's very offensive, but if you know, you know. Shout out to Boss Cuts on the north side. I used to go to Boss Cuts as a little kid. That barbershop is Black history in the Acres Homes community. So much stuff happened at that barbershop that it should have its own documentary. I remember there being like arguments about the dumbest stuff. They had a Street Fighter 2 machine in there, and that led to grown men fighting, arguing, friendships were ruined. They would even, this is how crazy this was. I remember at the barbershop, my brother and I were used for gambling. I'm going to make this make sense. They went through a lot of changes. Boss Cuts used to have just a chess table. I never learned how to play chess, but my uncles did. It just wasn't for me. To then a pool table. They got rid of the pool table because of gambling, obviously. But I was good at pool, but they didn't let me play because I was too little. But eventually, somebody shot the balls off the table. It hit somebody's foot. It led to a fight, so they got rid of the pool table. And then they thought, well, you know what? Since we're going to get rid of the pool table, so we can stop the gambling, we go put in a Street Fighter machine. I don't know if y'all grew up with arcade games or seeing arcade systems in barbershops, but I don't know where they got this from, but something tells me Boss Cuts should not have had this Dave and Buster's main event style Street Fighter arcade machine in that barbershop because the barbershop was not as expensive as that arcade machine. But mind you, they bought this because they thought they was going to stop the gambling from happening. We were so cold at Street Fighter 2, grown men would bet other grown men for us to play because we was undefeated. I would use Dawson and use Yoga Flame and the leg kick, and it was over. I would spam this combo that I didn't even know that I was doing, and it led to, I remember there was one fight I made so unstoppable to the point to where they turned the machine off when I was about to get my 9-game winning streak and I was going to get to write my name on the board, but they turned the game off and my feelings was hurt. My barber was so proud of me that day. He cut my hair for free. And it was all good. I was so happy. All I done came up. I had about a good $10 in my pocket. And I was finna go to the candy store. I was going to trick that off and have a great weekend. I didn't know my dad got to the barbershop early because I was too busy running my mouth about how I whooped everybody in Street Fighter. That was the last time I got to play Street Fighter. Because when my dad found out that they was gambling on me, he didn't let me play anymore. My feelings was hurt. I made $20. I thought I was doing good, but I found out that the barber made 500 on me that day. And I got a free haircut. But it's cool. You think that's crazy? We left that barbershop shortly thereafter because obvious reasons. So I go to this other barber up the street. My dad thought he was putting me in a safer environment. Wait, is this snitching? Okay, I'm gonna bleep this stuff out. How does he was the coldest barber though? That was what was so crazy about it. Shout out to him. I don't know what he up to now. I hope he in a good place. Life starts when you gotta clean up your own crap. Follow me. You remember when you got potty trained? If you don't, that's cool. But just think, there was a point in time in your life when you knew if you had to use a restroom, you needed to go to the restroom or else you was gonna make a mess of yourself. Some people got whooped, some people got changed. For me, I kind of just got looked at like, you too big for this. I got potty trained because my mom would be so confused as to why whenever I knew I needed to get my diaper changed, I would get on the couch or wherever, lay down, put my legs in there. I would take off the diaper and then just wait for my mom to change me. My dad saw that and immediately said, "Oh, if he grown enough to know when he need the diaper change, he grown enough to start getting potty trained." And I picked it up real quick. Pow. It's potty trained. It was a smooth process. My dad showed me how to aim and everything. I was a natural. Cut two, and this is where the saying comes into context. One of my earliest memories in childhood was when I pooped on myself at the family party. I had to been every bit of 2 or 3 years old, but it was a family function. I had my uncles over. Everybody was listening to music. We was eating good. It was a great time. This is like one of the best memories from my family's like origin in that apartment. My mom was in the kitchen cooking. Everything was ready but the potato salad. And guess what I wanted to do? I wanted to help. And some of y'all that already know me know that cooking is not my thing. I will avoid trying to cook. It's just not my ministry. I've tried and failed. So I just let cooking go. But I wanted to help with the potato salad. I got my little chair. Asked my mom, could I help? She gave me a wooden spoon. The potato salad was made already. It just needed to be stirred. So she just gave it to me so I could feel like I was contributing. I guess she thought maybe this would be a good sign. So I'm stirring the potato salad. I'm stirring. I'm stirring. And then I feel a cramp in my stomach. I'm like, ooh. And I get up. And I'm like, okay. And I'm stirring the potato salad. Stirring the potato salad. Then I have another cramp. I go, ooh. And at that point, I'm like, nah, that hurt. So I put the spoon down, push the potato salad back, and I get out my chair because I'm like, man, what's wrong? I look in the chair, it's two big old turds. Toasty! Now I'm panicking, like, ooh, crap, I hope nobody saw that. So I immediately pick up the chair and scoot to walk it to, and I can hear in the distance my Uncle Polo saying, hey, we ain't need that potato salad, you throw that away. And I was just so embarrassed. And I saw it through. I had some type of common sense. Dropped the turds in the toilet, flushed it, grabbed a piece of toilet paper to wipe the skid mark off because it was a white chair. And I asked my mom, like, hey, this ain't, don't nobody want to sit in this no more. Because that's my earliest memory, having to clean up after my own crap. And that's what the rest of my life has been about, cleaning up after my mistakes and trying to do the right thing. Now, granted, I'm not making potato salad no time soon, nor am I pooping on myself, because that's just nasty. But hopefully that it was a lighthearted story that gave you some perspective. So try to think back to your earliest memories in childhood and what were they centered around. I know for me, a lot of my early fond memories were with my family. I'm really big on family. That is like a big part of my heart. We were all we had. I came from very humble beginnings. My parents put in a lot of effort to give me some form of stability to the best of their ability, coming from very two different upbringings and backgrounds with their own like issues that they had to overcome to kind of force a marriage to work to raise children. Me being oldest, I was a crash dummy for a lot of parenting. And my mom always is apologetic about it, and I love her so much. I know she did her best to be a mom. And my dad is kind of just like, man, you alright, you good. And I know there's some things that he wish he could have did better, but I oftentimes reflect on my upbringing and think I would not be the man I am today if my parents would have done anything different. So I always try to reinforce how much I love them for raising me as best they could. Because I thought I knew it all at a young age. And for some things I was right about, and there's some things I was terribly wrong about. And I don't know if anybody who's watching this might have a good or bad relationship with their parents or whatever the case may be, but to bring it back to church, you do have a Father God in heaven that loves you, and you might go through some tough things in life and feel like, where is God? Or does he really love me? Because if he loves me, why would I be suffering the way that I am? Try to think about it in a different way. Maybe I can offer you some alternative thought. If everything was perfect in life, you wouldn't need God. Some of the struggles that you endure give you a testimony so that you can be a vessel to help other people. And I hope that I can be a vessel in some way or the other in the future because I don't have all the answers and I didn't do it the right way all the time. I'm working to actively improve the quality of the people around me by virtuous activity, not for selfish gain. And I'm going to make mistakes. I'm not perfect. I don't think I'm perfect. I do think that I will give my best effort